So I really appreciate everyone who's here today. We had a few sponsors with us that really helped make this happen. We had SIF Science, we have Bloomberg, we had Cloudera, and Hortonworks, obviously, right? That would be the one I forget, right? And I would also be remiss if I didn't say thank you to the Apache Software Foundation, because they aren't a physical entity here to represent themselves. But anyways, yeah, the Apache Software Foundation, they are the entity here, is really hosting all these open source projects together. So without them, we can't host an event like this. So even though they aren't here there is no specific person to thank and recognize for that. It's really all of you in the audience. Everyone who takes part in this, who's ever submitted a patch to a project, whether it's just a documentation, you wrote some new features, whether you're a committer, a PMC member, thank you all, because you guys help make this work and really give us the content to all come together like this and share a day. So thank you all very much. On that note, I guess I'll sort of kick it off here and sort of give a brief introduction here on the Phoenix side. So those who are here for this side and interest, I'll give you a little sort of rundown what happened since last year and sort of my take on where we are. So this is kind of interesting too, because this is I think my first Apache project that I've really come in and got involved with intimately, where I wasn't there from the start. So it was actually kind of interesting to me now. I looked at these dates here, when Phoenix actually hit the ASF through the incubator, and it blew my mind. I was like, is that date right? Like December of 2013 is. So it's crazy to me. It's they're in incubator for about a year and a half, and they graduated in 2014, and so we're just over 4 years and a couple months ago. Back then, there were 17 founding PMC members that were a part of this project, and they made their first releases right around then too. 3.0 and a 4.0 release. And if you fast forward today now, we're 5.5 years later of the Phoenix being a part of the ASF. We're now up to 25 PMC members and 35 committers. So we're almost triple, if I'm doing my mental math correctly there, over the initial people we had in there. And like I was saying, it blows my mind, because I wasn't in that initial cadre of people who were a part of this now, but yet here I am, and standing in front of the audience and telling you guys about how excited I am to be here speaking about Phoenix. So that's really cool and special to me myself. In terms of the project here, we just had the 4.14 release go out in the community. We have a 5.0 that's underway. So 5.0 is really big and exciting as well, because that's in line with the HBase 2.0 release, which just came out a little bit ago. Those who are following on closely know how much of a saga that really was. We'll hear some more about that later today. And, so I'd be remiss if I didn't also talk about where we're going with Phoenix, and where we want to see this go, and really why it's, I always think about HBase and Phoenix sort of hand in hand. They are separate entities, they are separate projects, but I really like Phoenix because I think it provides us this really important layer of data management. Running a distributed system is inherently difficult. It's something that's very challenging, and I don't think anybody, or I think anyone who would come up to you and say, "Oh yeah, it's easy, we figured that out," I think they're pulling your leg. And I think I really like Phoenix, and I encourage a lot of people to use it, because it's one of these things that gives you some guideposts. It gives you something to hold on to as you're going along here, and it gives you a lot of really normal feeling, standard tools, and makes you feel comfortable, and gives you some, pushes you in the right direction. So I think that's really, that's when people would say, why should I use Phoenix? That's what I would tell them. And, that comes primarily on the hooks of having a high level language in order to interact with your data, to represent how you're storing your data, how you manipulate it. So having a robust SQL implementation is really important to that effect, because that's giving us our language of how we actually interact with our data. When we have new business use cases come in, that tells us how can we actually modify our data? How do we get the answers out of our data that we need? So as we, every single Phoenix release that comes out, you're always seeing new extensions coming into the SQL implementation that Phoenix supports. This is great, and I don't think this should ever stop. I think we'll always see this growing and evolving. I think one of the other things you'll sort of see today are a lot of talks about how people are choosing to use Phoenix. So the difference in how people are now interacting with their data. And one of the big things that I really hope to see is that Phoenix will sort of help drive adoption of this great platform made up of HBase and start expanding out how people are really using this data. We like HBase as a centralized store. We can use it for storing all of our data here. And we can start using Phoenix as this layer here that not only gives us SQL access, but gives us access to all parts of our business, all of our coworkers. You don't have to be a Java expert to go and access this data. So what I really hope to see us continue to do in the future, I think we made great strides already, but I hope that we'll start seeing more and more people just adopting this data, build on this great store that we have, and I think it'll do really well for the project here. But thank you again for coming out today. At this point, I'm going to throw it off to Misty, who's VP of Apache HBase, and she'll keep it going.